A Libert Seguros agora é Yellow. Tudo aquilo que já era bom continua igual. Excelência e proximidade permanecem como nossa essência. Porque não é uma mudança, é uma evolução. A Yellow está sempre em sintonia com você. É liberdade com segurança. A melhor experiência acessível a todos os clientes, iluminando cada passo da sua jornada. Deixe essa luz iluminar seu caminho. Yellow Seguradora. Seguro para viver livre. Consulte seu corretor.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And everybody joining us now here on Katz and Cosby is the great journalist and host of the Megyn Kelly Show on YouTube, the great Megyn Kelly. Megyn, it's so great to have somebody whose birthday is the same as mine on Katz and Cosby, my friend. It's great to talk to you.
Hello, my fellow Scorpio. How are you?
I know. Can you believe it? We both share the same birthday. Great minds think alike, obviously. You have been busy, Megyn Kelly. First of all, you endorsed President Trump. I've never seen you come out and endorse a candidate. There you were. It was right before Election Day. It was huge. Explain why you did that.
You know, it is very unusual. I've never done that before. And I just felt that I had to do it. I don't know how to explain it other than to tell you I felt a calling. I really kind of felt like God was telling me I needed to do it. And I wasn't sure because that was a bridge I had never crossed as a journalist. I've definitely gotten more opinionated since I've started my podcast and, shared a lot more of my own personal beliefs with the audience than I ever did before on television news. So it seems kind of like a natural iteration, but it felt a little risky, but I was really happy I did it.
Yeah, and you also spoke about women's rights, which I think was such an important message, Megyn, for him to hear from you and obviously voters across the country, because Kamala Harris was saying, I basically own the women's rights. You made a great point, and today there was a hearing on the House side talking about all these kids that are missing, all the women and kids that are human trafficked. Explain why you felt he is somebody who protects women's rights.
Well, it's like I said in those remarks that night, that I think the Democrats think that we are all so obsessed with killing the life that may be growing in our wombs. They've forgotten that most of us are much more obsessed with taking care of the lives once they're actually here. That's what keeps most women up at night. Are my children safe? How can I keep them safe? And am I safe? I want to live with them into, my 80s and 90s, and I want to make sure I'm around to enjoy all the fun milestones and so on. And the things that are a threat to all of that are all things President Trump will help on, and that Kamala Harris didn't talk about at all or promised to make worse. Like the problem with the border is very serious and is costing women's lives daily. Innocent women, not just women at the border, not that they don't count. They count a lot. That's how Jocelyn Nungaro was killed. 12 years old down there. But across the country now. And the trans thing, little girls are getting hurt. They're getting their innocence stolen, their safety stolen, their medals stolen, their scholarships stolen. It matters. Not to mention what could happen in a bathroom or a locker room. We've seen girls assaulted. We've seen them sexually assaulted. And the other piece of it was what's happening, with our boys and just how the left has been messaging that the zero-sum game and how little girls must advance at the cost of little boys, which no parent who has both would ever accept, no normal human would ever accept. And yet this messaging gets pushed on us, and it's almost ubiquitous on the left, such that it's gospel. And then you find yourself thinking, am I the crazy one? It's just, anyway, that's why I went.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's sort of like alternate universe. But look, the public spoke overwhelmingly. He wins the popular vote. He wins electoral. Obviously, House stays and the Senate comes back to the Republicans. The American public spoke. And yet, in the last few hours, Megyn Kelly, we heard from the DA, Alvin Bragg, who said, you know what? We're not going to dismiss this case. We don't want to have this case dropped against him in New York. It's like, didn't they get the message about lawfare?
He can't let go. He's obsessed. That is the most sick position I've heard in a while on the lawfare. He lost. It's over. His case is over. His verdict is going to get overturned. the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot introduce evidence in trying a former president of any of his official behavior while in the White House. Well, that New York trial introduced a ton of that evidence. They had Hope Hicks on the stand. She was working for him while in the White House. They talked in their summation about how important that evidence was to the government's case. So there's no chance that this thing doesn't get reversed and thrown out. And even if Judge Merchan won't throw it out, it'll get thrown out by the first department, the appellate court. So the case is over, whether Alvin Bragg wants to admit it or not. And the fact is, I heard Jonathan Turley say this, and it's a good way of putting it. He wants to keep Trump on a leash somehow for the next 4 years with this threat of Alvin Bragg, the tough guy, looming over him. It's an absurdity, and it should not be allowed. Judge Merchan needs to do the right thing.
And at the same time, Megyn Kelly, he also, look at D.A. Bragg. I mean, you know New York City. We both know New York City well. It's like a revolving door in the justice system. There was a guy who was stabbing somebody the other day multiple times. I think he had 8 or 9 priors. That guy's out. Why is that happening? And yet Trump on a business ledger case, you know?
And by the way, no one ever saw the records. His alleged fraud was seen by no one. It wasn't seen by anybody until they subpoenaed the documents and said, show us your alleged fraud, to no one sitting on your bookshelf. Anyway, Alvin Bragg and Judge Merchan are on a power trip driven by their hatred for Donald Trump, their abject TDS. And no one's going to be able to reason with them. They're going to have to learn by being struck down by a higher court. And I imagine Judge Merchan's not going to be reasonable in his ruling, and it is going to take either the First Department or the Appellate Division or the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York State, to teach them that they can't do this.
So what was it, Stalin, who said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime, Megyn Kelly?
Yeah. Well, can I tell you, Rita, I said this during the middle of the lawfare, and I haven't really changed my mind. I don't think these Democrats are going to learn until one of theirs has skin in the game. I'm not going to lie. I would start investigating what exactly has Adam Schiff been doing. How are Nancy Pelosi's trades? Are they all above board? What's going on at the Clinton Foundation? Honestly, if one of theirs gets put through what President Trump got put through, they won't stop. When they get back in power, they'll do it again. I mean, right now, this whole thing with Trump, they're threatening to resume this nonsense, which probably helped get him elected when he leaves office. So I know it's bad. It took me a long time to get to the point of saying, you want to weaponize the DOJ, we need to weaponize against you as well. But that is where I am right now.
And speaking of the wake-up call in the media, you and I both worked at Fox. We also both worked at NBC. Megyn, you look at what happened with Joe Scarborough and Mika. They were bashing Trump. I mean, they called him Hitler for years, and yet they went with their tail between their legs and went down to Mar-a-Lago and talked with him recently. What was your reaction to that?
I mean, they're such pathetic, groveling grifters. It was somewhat stomach-turning. But when you think about it this way, it's better that they had to grovel, that they were brought to heel. They were brought to heel. They tried for years to ruin Trump. I mean, racist, sexist, rapist, fascist, Hitler-esque Nazi. That was the messaging on that show about Trump for years. And what the American electorate said to them was, you're irrelevant. We're not listening to you. No one's listening to you. You have no power. And Joe Scarborough in particular is so desperate to be needed, to be in the halls and the circles of power, that he will grovel to anyone just to have access. He's the one who told us Joe Biden was the best Joe Biden 2 months before his on-air debate meltdown. He will say anything just to stay in the circles of power. Trump knows it. His audience now knows it. And shame on the fool who trusts these two. That's all I can say.
It is amazing to see the turnabout for sure. Well, Megyn Kelly, before I let you go, your podcast is awesome. You have always been an enormous success, my friend. You are a successful attorney. You've been a successful broadcaster. What can people get on your YouTube? Because it is hot as hot. I love it.
All right. You're so nice. But what this audience needs to know is you were a reporting goddess to me when we were both at Fox News. My team and I used to say, WWRD, what would Rita do? Because you got the stories. You got stories nobody else would get. You got the ungettable. And so when we bumped up into no time and time again, we learned to not take no because of WWRD.
Oh.
So you are very kind to give me any sort of a shout out. But if people would like to hear what we're saying on the show, is just go to youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, or you can catch me on SiriusXM or any podcast for free, wherever you get your podcast.
Well, you are awesome, and I always think, what would Megyn do too? And I'm so proud of you, my friend. Happy belated birthday, and it's so awesome to have you here on Cats and Cosby.
Thanks for having me, my love. See you soon.